Our quote of the day: the eldest daughter is the prototypical parentified child. Who's tucking her in? Who's feeding her? Who's nurturing her? Who's taking care of her? That quote comes to us today from Dr. Muriel Bouquet, who is also a psychologist and professor at Columbia University. All right, team. This quote, this episode, it feels a little close to home,
Uh-huh.
a little too close, like right here, right here.
Okay, like right up in my driveway. You
Listen,
outside.
mm-hmm,
Girl, I feel like we need some tissues. And I was reading this quote before we even
mm-hmm.
started. I feel like I got a little emotional. It might be that time, y'all. I don't know. I just felt a little emotional, but I wanna hear from you first, Dom. What comes up for you when you hear that quote? And then I have some ideas too.
The first thing was, oh, we this is about us. This episode is for us. This quote itself is for us. It's multiple great questions to ask as the
Hmm.
eldest daughter, right? This quote offers an opportunity for reflection, a moment to pause and to really think about what your experience is. And I want to point out that while this quote uh says eldest daughter, and that's the identity that we're focusing most on, I want to be clear that eldest daughter does not necessarily mean that you chronologically in the context of this conversation does
Hmm.
not mean that what we're going to talk about won't won't resonate with someone who is not chronologically in their family the eldest daughter.
Yeah.
That you don't have to be the firstborn girl to take on qualities of the eldest daughter. I have friends who are only children, and I know there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about today that they identify with. I know people who, when there are big age gaps between siblings,
Hmm.
and if they are the eldest within that particular grouping of siblings, then this resonates with them.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, Don. That's so spot on. And also, this is not a monolithic experience, right? We all have our own
Right.
experiences. We're going to come as eldest daughters, we're going to come with our experience and just see what resonates with you. And Don, when I hear this quote, I think about I think it was a meme my little sister sent me. And it was so funny because, and you may have seen this, I'm not sure, but she had DM'd me this recently. And basically, what it said, it was a woman and she was like crying in the meme. And I believe the overlay text said something like, when you realize that your big sister didn't have a big sister. And I
Yes,
was
I
like,
have received
you
that.
see,
I have
okay,
received that from
girl.
my younger sisters. Yes.
And I saw that. I was like, yeah, girl. I was like, yeah, out shit. Yeah, that's true. And then, thinking about the quote even more, there were many times in my journey where I like felt like I wanted to be rescued. I felt like I was doing all the rescuing, like, fuck, can I get a goddamn break? Like just having so much
Yes.
responsibility on my shoulders. And even as an adult, as a grown ass woman now, I'm looking back on baby me, teenage me, and I'm just like, appalled sometimes with all that I was doing as a child. And so we're going to dive more into that in this conversation, but that's what came up for me. And so I will say, probably jumping ahead, but I do want to say we talk a lot about inner child
Yeah.
work and engaging our inner child, indulging our inner child on the podcast. And so I love to do that these days to give myself what I didn't necessarily have when I was younger. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll touch more on that in just a bit, but that's what comes up for me, girl. Hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, today we want to to recognize that this episode is for the woman who became everything for everyone before they even knew who they were for themselves. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say that one more time because even though it's not our quote of the day, I want you to sit with that. Today's episode is for the woman who became everything for everyone before she even knew who she was for herself.
We want to take a lot of pauses during this episode because I feel like there's going to be some points where it's just like, wow, like sit with
Yeah.
that, right? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I would also say it's for the woman who became responsible too soon, right? The woman who
Mm-hmm.
learned that being needed felt safer than being vulnerable. The woman
Mm-hmm.
who carries obligation, guilt, hyper independence, and even emotional labor like it's her full-time job and she's not getting paid for it. There is no
That part.
PTO, okay?
Hmm.
There is no paycheck, okay? And so, lady, we want
Listen.
this episode, okay? Listen, we want this episode to be permission for you, right? Permission to
Yeah.
release what was never yours to carry, permission to stop confusing survival skills with personality traits.
Mm. Mm.
I think we need to say that
Mm.
one more time for the people in the
I
back.
think so.
I
I
think
think so.
so.
Run it back. Mm-hmm.
Run it back. We want this episode to be permission to stop confusing survival skills with personality traits and really permission to release or realize that being strong doesn't mean that you have to be burdened, right? Realizing that
Yeah,
that does not have to be your burden to carry.
exactly. And this episode is also about validation and
Mm,
healing and transformation. Because the reality is that while we have been shaped by our family dynamics, we are not sentenced to them. I'm going to run that one back. While we may have been shaped by our family dynamics, we are not sentenced to them. You can heal, you can shift, you can become softer, you can create healthier relationships, and you can finally choose yourself without guilt. So today, we're going to get honest about what it means to be the eldest daughter and how specifically for Terri and I, how we are learning to put some of that weight down. And I want to
yes, Lord.
emphasize learning, not
Okay.
learned as in past tense,
Hmm.
because this is an ongoing work.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, so lady, as you're listening, think about this question for yourself if it applies. But Dom, when you think about the moment in your life or the moments, like if you had like core pillars in your
Mm-hmm.
life when you realized, wow, I'm carrying way too much as the eldest daughter, can you sort of not just tell us a story, but can you like paint the picture? Can you show the story of like what was happening? I have a couple in mind too, if you want to take a moment to think about it, but I want to like, because I love when you tell stories anyway, but I want you to like paint the story of like what happened, you know? What were those moments, those key moments?
I think for me, as I'm literally sitting here trying to think of pivotal moments, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a mix of I'm doing the work
Mm-hmm.
and it's because I'm doing the work
Yeah.
that I cannot, in this moment, I'm not
Yeah.
recalling like full on story where I can paint a
Okay.
full picture,
Yeah.
but I'm recalling things that have been said to me.
Ooh, okay.
So like I remember that like my best friend and I, so she's been around since we were 9 years old. Right. So she's
Yeah.
seen all the things,
Yes.
right? She's seen a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it.
Yeah.
Um, and vice versa. And so, because she's also the eldest daughter. And
Okay.
so I remember multiple times as we were older and having conversations where we periodically like reflect on childhood and,
Mm-hmm.
have these conversations. There have been multiple times where she said, yeah, it feels like you didn't get a childhood.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Mm. Wow, for your best friend to say that and you are, oh, okay. I'm just saying, I
Yeah.
feel emotional already. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna let
Yeah.
it flow. But damn, I'm just thinking like were together at 9 years old, like you were friends at 9 years old,
Hmm.
and for you all to reflect back on childhood and to say that, like, and now I think, Dom, we have a new perspective. Like I'm a mother now, right? So I realize
Yeah.
the importance and I see baby Z, she gets to live a life that I never got to live. And I love that for her. Like she is such a positive, happy, she don't got to worry in the
She
world. And I'm like,
is.
baby, I was
Yeah.
stressed out, worried about all types of shit when I was like at a young age. And so when you think back to your experience, like I know you said you can't think of a story in particular. I don't know, what else do you have to share about that? Like, how did that impact you when she said, or when you've heard that statement of like, wow, you didn't really get a childhood?
The first time I remember getting defensive
Really? Okay, tell me more.
and saying, no, I had a childhood. Like, I mean, you were there. We grew up. Like
We played
I did
outside,
things that
played
children
Barbies.
did. Like,
Yeah.
and then when we really sat down and broke it down,
Yes.
then it was like this aha moment of like, well, shit. No, I
Yeah.
didn't get a childhood in the same way
Mm-hmm.
that other children do.
Yeah.
I didn't even get childhood in the same way that my youngest siblings got childhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so having that realization, it was like, oh, wait, I think about things that I did,
Yeah.
like the responsibilities that I had as a
Yeah.
kid, that as an adult, I've had to take moments and say, wait, hold on. Just because I was able to do that at that age
Listen.
does not mean that it is appropriate or
Mm-hmm.
healthy or necessary
Yeah.
for children to do that at that age.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. We gotta stay here for a second before I share some of my experiences because I want to ask you. I was gonna say, now that I'm a mother and I'm seeing what a child, I feel like what a childhood should look like. It's
Mm-hmm.
mind blowing to me. But I also wanted to know, do you think that you have that same experience watching your nieces and nephew grow up? Are you seeing childhood from a different lens? Because you
Yeah.
now realize like how young you realize how young
Mm-hmm.
9 is. Like you were a baby. Like you may have been doing things that were responsible at a certain age, but like when you see other kids now as an adult at that age, you're like, that is a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. And then what? Oh, I want to dig into the
No, go ahead.
defensiveness too,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that happens a lot where people are talking about childhood, and many of us, especially when it comes to maybe maybe the actions of the adults around us and things that they may have, just situations they may have either put us in or expectations they required of us, it can make us defensive because it's like, don't talk
Yeah.
about my mama, don't talk about, so like tell me where the defensiveness came from. Where do you think that came from?
So I think for me, the defensiveness was that initial immediate reaction of
Hmm.
let's not talk negative about what my childhood was,
Okay.
or or saying that I didn't have a childhood reflects negatively on me in my character, right? That's
Okay.
and oftentimes for folks, that's where defensiveness will come from, right? Of like,
Yeah.
are you saying by what you're saying, like you're attacking me as a person, and my character, when really that's not what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And so that was like I said, the immediate reaction.
Okay.
What came after was letting myself be open to reflecting, like, okay, well, wait, no, let's really think about this,
Hmm.
right? Let's talk it out. Like
Yeah.
let's review the childhood. Like let's
Yeah.
look at some
What's the facts?
examples, right?
Yeah.
Like exactly what are the facts?
Yeah.
And then as I'm looking at the facts, it's, oh, well, yeah. When I compare the facts to what is expected
Mm-hmm.
of childhood to look like,
Yeah.
when I look at examples of other people that I know and what childhood looked like for them,
Yeah.
oh, well, yeah, there was a lot of adult responsibility. There was parentification
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
happened for me.
Oh, that's so good, girl. Okay, so not that you were parentified, but I'm talking about the topic.
Yeah.
I'm like mindful, like,
No, I knew
okay,
what you meant.
that wasn't
Yes.
good. Okay, I'm like, okay, so I want to share these three experiences, Dom, and I'm curious to know if you can relate to any of them or if anything comes up for you as you
Mm-hmm.
share. But I'm thinking about being the eldest daughter, and I'm thinking about it through like the responsibility. And these are just like key stories that kind of paint the bigger picture of the different instances that were
Yeah.
happening on a continuous basis. And even when you were just talking about, oh, I did have a childhood, many of us we had childhood moments, right? We had experience. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have moments from my childhood that I remember, but I think the overarching pattern is what we're kind of getting at. It's like there was a
Yeah.
yeah, an expectation and pattern. So for me, when I was in college, my mom was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and this is right after my dad had passed away. And this is my
Yeah.
bonus dad who raised me. My younger siblings, my four younger siblings, is their biological father. And I remember my grandparents, this is like four kids now. Like I'm in college, so I'm pretty independent. But like, what are we gonna do with these four young kids? And I remember thinking to
Mm-hmm.
myself, like, there ain't nothing at home for my siblings in Philly. Like I'm gonna be away. They're not gonna have my like supervision and me on them like a hawk, making sure they're doing everything that they need to do because I'm in college. So like we need to figure out what to do with these kids. And so I remember us talking to people at the church about a boarding school. And I remember doing research on the Milton Hershey boarding school and like going to my siblings' schools and getting their transcripts, ordering birth certificates, and then taking them up to an interview day to interview at the school. And I remember the younger three, they were able to get in, but I had a conversation with them like, this is going to be great for your future. Like trying to sell it to them because I knew they were smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't want them to misbehave in the interview process. So I had to like talk it up. And so they all got in, which was great. But my other sister, she wasn't able to get in. But I think about that experience and it was so stressful. I have my
Yeah.
own workload. I'm a student. I could have even, was I a teenager at that time? I can't remember because I went to college at 17. So I could have been a teenager
Yeah.
or like early 20s, but that's a baby. And I'm managing all of this and making sure these kids, my kids are good. And so that was one experience there. And then the other experience I think about, Dom, is tied to identity. So when I was younger, when I was in maybe high school, so I realized that there was leverage that I got by taking my siblings with me to like go places and like hang out.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, I always had to babysit. And I remember people like, damn, you got them kids? Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm stuck in the house. I'm watching the kids. And I remember taking my little sister oftentimes with me to hang out with friends because I
Mm-hmm.
knew it would take the pressure off my parents. I'm like, all right, they will definitely say yes because I'm taking one of the kids. And so I literally have a picture. Remember those malls that we used to go to when we were younger and you take like keychain pictures? They used to
Yeah.
have them a lot in Philly, like the gallery, and we
Uh-huh.
used to go to Granite Run Mall. I have a picture when I was in high school, Dom, of me and some of my homegirls, and my little sister had to be one or two. And we're all in the picture at Granite Run Mall, smiling, taking a picture. And I often look like a little teen mom because I would have a stroller going around the neighborhood, hanging out with my friends, pulling up with the stroller as an adult, that is so wild. Like, what is going on? And so that
Yeah.
was the other experience. And the final one, and I can't wait to hear your feedback on all of this, is my little brother when he was younger. He had asked me, because I always picked him up from school. He was like, can my friends asked if you were my mom? And I was like, oh, okay, well, like just tell them I'm not your mom, I'm your big sister. He's like, well, can I call you mom? And I was just like, oh my gosh, because our mom
Mm-hmm.
wasn't there. I'm doing the mom things. And I explained to him, like, no, like, you can't call me mom, but you can, I'm your big sister and I love you and all of that. But I was just like, oh my goodness.
Heartbroken. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the three instances.
So, when I hear your stories, I think the thing that comes up for me is how our minds create narratives for us for
Hmm.
survival,
Yeah.
right? That these situations, you're finding ways to make sense of what isn't typical,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there are some like the your little brother wanting to call you mom. It's about paradigm. So in his mind at that age, the paradigm of what a mom is, you were embodying that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it would make sense that that is what he would want to call you. And it's also heartbreaking in that you knew that that's not that you aren't, even though you were
Mm-hmm.
doing mom things.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have access to your mom at that time.
Yeah.
And then I think about, the story you shared about being a teenager and going to the mall and going places out of the house. So then I also then there's also this piece of how you leverage what's
Mm-hmm.
happening, and in a way again to help make sense of a situation that is not typical.
Yeah.
How in your teenage mind you're like, okay, well, what's in it for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because teenagers are very self-focused. And
Yeah.
so even as the eldest daughter, the parentified child, you're still a teenager. And so there still are going to be teenage ways of engaging.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, bet I already know that I want to go to the mall with my friends. Well, if if I know that I also have to babysit, well, let's figure out
Mm-hmm.
how we're going to make this a win-win for me.
Yeah.
And so, I think that is actually common behavior for teenage eldest daughters to have to figure out how to make the most of the situation, how to leverage situations that would make it for their benefit.
Yeah. That is so true, girl. And I bet you many of us have probably heard this saying, right? Like, you're so mature for your age. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in my lifetime, Dawn. I'm sure you've heard it plenty of times as well. And as you
Mm-hmm.
were sharing, it just made me think about how sometimes we're praised for our trauma responses, and it's called maturity, right? Because it's the
Yeah.
norm for us. Like, we're used to being responsible. We're used to being the dependable one, the one that holds it all
Yep.
together. And it's like, yeah, people say it as a compliment, but really, that's just my trauma response. I'm just going into the pattern that I'm accustomed
Mm-hmm.
to, you know?
And more than likely, what it is you're used to that trauma response is also you're used to having to engage with adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
you've had to step up, you've been forced to step up how you engage because you've been the one who has to speak for your parents or represent your parents in at the doctor's office, at some social services office.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple at the school, like there's multiple
Yeah.
scenarios in which you have had to represent the adult. And so you've had to learn to engage with adults on their level.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that can appear as if you were more mature for your age, right?
Yeah.
You've had to take on more responsibilities than your peers. And so then that can appear as if you are more mature for your age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Dom, I know one thing that we often talk about is like, I believe you call it operationalizing. Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so should we
Mm-hmm.
dig into, we kind of gave our examples. Should we dig into like what is the eldest daughter syndrome if people have not like heard the official, I guess, definition or terminology?
Yes. Yes. Let's look at it. So, eldest daughter syndrome is essentially where the eldest daughter is overburdened with the emotional, physical, and familial responsibility early in life. Parentification is when a child is expected to take on roles and responsibilities that are typically understood to be taken on by parents.
Mm. You know what's funny too, Dom? I'm sure in the Black community, many of us have seen this, but I'm going to try my best to explain this the best way I know how. But I've seen situations where I'm pretty sure in my family where I'm just gonna, okay, let's say there's a daughter. She isn't necessarily the oldest or the eldest, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are sons in the equation, but usually when it comes to hierarchy, it's like the daughter becomes the eldest, even of the sons, as far as the
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
responsibilities and
definitely.
expectation, right? So I grew up in that typical, I want to say, Black household where like we serve our men. So my mom was ironing her dad's clothes. We're serving the men in the family. We fix their plates first, whether it's your partner or it's just a male family member. We're fixing the men's plates first. And when it comes to the brothers, the women are often more domesticated. We're doing the cleaning, the cooking. The boys, they can kind of do whatever they want to do. And so I know that there are sons out there who I'm sure they may have had responsibility, but in my experience, what I've witnessed is oftentimes the eldest daughter will kind of trump the responsibilities of what's expected of the
Yep.
sons, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oof.
It is very common,
Mm-hmm.
and I push back on that.
Yeah.
Um,
Damn right.
on certain things, and then
Yeah.
I get pushed back in return, and we just have a little tug, and I'm just like, this is not, and so we'll talk a little bit more about how
Okay.
you can set boundaries, how you can change some of that
Yeah.
dynamic.
Okay. Because I'm like, oh, girl, I want to hear more. So, okay, we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah,
Because I
we
want to know
go.
like who you're pushing back on. Okay. Okay. We'll talk about that. Shall we talk about how this shows up in relationships? Because there are
Yes.
ways that I showed up in relationships that I did not realize were tied to the parentification and the eldest daughter dynamic. And so, girl, let's dig into it. Okay.
Okay.
Romantic relationships. I want to talk about this first. And maybe we can just, lady, we'll share some high level, I guess you could say bullet points, and then we can dive into stories if we have them. So the first is, Lord, attracting emotionally unavailable partners. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're gonna dive into it too. Becoming the emotional manager.
Mm-hmm.
Lord, telling all our business. The next one is struggling to receive softness. Hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Confusing peace with boredom.
Yep.
Wow. And then feeling unsafe when not needed. Okay. Story
You
time?
know,
Or what you got?
so let me just be honest and say
Yeah.
that this is not just these examples that you gave don't only
Hmm.
apply to romantic partners,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
That becoming having difficulty receiving softness,
Yeah.
receiving help,
Hmm.
asking for help.
Without it being reciprocal. You ever get help and
Oh,
then you're like, oh, I got to do something for you. That was me. I'm like, if someone does something for me, okay, I got to balance it out. What am I going to do for you? Like, it's okay to
yeah.
receive and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just be. Whew.
And the confusing piece with boredom
Talk about it.
that and as it ties to, so I think that that can happen across, like, just in general in your relationship with yourself,
Yeah,
right?
in life, right?
In
Like,
life
yeah,
in general.
yeah.
And so if you're in a space where you, particularly in a romantic relationship where things
Mm-hmm.
are at peace, communication's good,
Mm-hmm.
romance, intimacy is good,
No drama, no
there's no
nonsense.
drama, none of that.
Yeah,
You're not bored.
yeah.
You're at peace.
And it's unfamiliar. You're like, wait, is something about to happen? When
Yeah.
is the other shoe gonna drop? But Dom, I feel like sometimes people get addicted to that chaos because you're accustomed to it. It's like the norm. You're waiting for
Mm-hmm.
the other shoe to drop. And I've actually heard, I'm sure many of us have heard about like the nice, I guess, I don't know, they call it the nice guy syndrome, but when you're so used to being in a situation with someone who's unavailable or someone who treats you a certain way and you're so accustomed to that dynamic that when you get someone who's like calm and at peace and they put your nervous system at rest, you're like, this is not familiar. It's not that I don't
This
like
is this
this.
he's boring.
He's boring because I'm not accustomed to the energetic and emotional whiplash
I'm
that I'm so used
right.
to,
I'm
you
not
know?
you like I don't know what it feels to not have a trauma response when I'm in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And so that's where the work needs to happen.
Yeah. That's good. I want to lean into a couple other points here that we talked about
Mm-hmm.
in relationships. It's so funny because for a long time, like I didn't realize that there's certain, I want to say baggage or certain, yeah, I'll just say baggage for lack of a better word, but so much baggage that I had that I didn't realize I had because on the surface, I was like, oh, I'm successful in life. I'm doing it. I'm making it. But I didn't realize until like in the past 10 years or so that I had abandonment issues. And it's like, duh, when you know my story and you hear about it, it's like, yeah, that's anyone could have
It
told you
makes
that, but
sense that
I'm
it
not,
would.
yeah, I'm like, I don't have the knowledge and I'm not a therapist or psychologist. I didn't know that that was a thing because of how I was performing and showing up. And so what I realized is that I went through this phase where I would often want to be with and more attracted to like the bad boy, but the guy who wasn't giving me the attention, who was unavailable and who didn't really want me. And I was like, oh, this probably goes back to your mama and the abandonment issues you experienced because I was accustomed to this like push and pull type of thing of like not feeling like I was wanted. And so I was so accustomed to that. And I kind of wanted to win this guy over. Like I want to show him like I'm
Mm-hmm.
worthy to for you to be here and stay. And so that was something that was wild. But then the other thing, Don, was when I was younger, this goes back to maybe feeling unsafe when not needed. And also maybe just me being, I don't know, just wanting to have resources. I would always have a purse. Like ever since I was younger, I had a purse and I have, my little pads in there. I had some gum, some candy. I would have necessities like a little first aid kit. And a lot of times when my siblings and I were out, like I would always have a snack or something that they needed in the bag. And so I remember in school, like in maybe in middle school and high school, if friends, they would always come up to me asking for mints and gum because they knew I
Mm-hmm.
had whatever it was. And it was really for me because I didn't want my breath to be stinking, we're in close proximity in class. I'm, popping my mints and stuff. But people would come and ask me, oh, do you have a pad? Do you have this? And so I became the person they would come to because I'm like a little mama with my little,
With your
baby
resource
bag,
bag,
my
uh-huh.
resource
Mm-hmm.
bag.
Your
So that's
supply
another
bag,
thing.
uh-huh.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
As you were talking about that supply bag, it made me think about how I am now, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think for me now, it's less an eldest daughter thing and more of an as I'm aging,
yeah,
there are certain habits that I pick up.
yeah.
And so for my own comfort,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it is that supply bag. Now, granted, I got a small
Yeah.
little fanny pack situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that little fanny pack has way more in it than people realize.
Yeah.
And it's all the things that I need to feel comfortable in whatever
Yes.
setting I might find myself in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it just so happens that I end up being able to help other people in the process.
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't always like that. And so as I'm getting older, like I remember back in the day carrying a big purse, right? Because big purses
Yes.
that
Girl.
was the style, right?
Yep.
I don't know half of what I had in there, and I doubt that any of it truly was resourceful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But currently, my little bag has all kinds of supplies and resources in it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the supplies and resources aren't for other people. It really is about about myself, and as I'm
Exactly.
aging, the things that I need to be comfortable when I'm outside of the home.
Yes. Amen to that. I would agree. Like we need our things.
Yes.
So we didn't really talk about friend. I mean, we kind of alluded to how some of these
Yeah, we got off topic just a
dynamics.
little bit, but still
No,
on
it's
topic.
okay.
Hmm.
But yeah, but I feel like there's a little nuance. Like in friendships, have you seen how you might show up in a certain way to friendship because of this eldest daughter dynamic, like always being the friend therapist, especially you being a real therapist, resentment from unequal emotional labor, things of that nature. Any dynamics that you noticed in friendships that kind of bled over into those
I think
relationships?
for myself personally, I from as a kid, like that was a thing, right? Like as a kid, but it was like labeled as a know-it-all. I
Mm,
knew a lot and could
yeah,
help people with solve a lot of problems.
yeah,
As my adult self, it's yes, I'm still a person that like folks in my family and friends will come to for support about something, but I would say that the majority of the people in my life are very clear because they more than likely have heard me say, maybe you should see a therapist for that. not me, because I'm your friend or whatever
Mm,
role I am in your life, you know.
okay.
But maybe this is the point where you go see a therapist.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
And
set
so
that
I think
boundary.
for me, as an adult, I've gotten better
Yeah.
about saying that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would imagine that there are eldest daughters who are listening that aren't therapists in real life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in their career, and but they end up in this space,
Yeah.
whether they want it or not. And I think for
Yeah.
some, they relish in that
Mm-hmm.
and wouldn't necessarily know who they are to the people in their lives if they weren't offering that.
That part. That's really good. Yeah. That's so true. And I feel like with me, Dom, when it came to friendships, my view of myself was so distorted because of what I've been through, like struggling with
Mm-hmm.
depression, anxiety, and all of that. But what I've realized in adulthood is that because I've been a recovering people pleaser and a peacemaker in the family, like the one that kind of keeps everything together when there's
The
chaos,
eldest daughter, yep.
the eldest
Mm-hmm.
daughter, I realized that after being in so many different like relationships and also friendships, that I have a trait to typically in relationships make people feel good. People enjoy my energy and being around me because of how I make them feel. And I realized that I would attract people who just wanted like a cup they wanted their cup filled, right? And
Yeah.
so it was like, are you really
Mm-hmm.
here for me, or are you here with for what I can do or how I'm making you feel? And so we'll talk about boundaries in a bit, but in adulthood, baby, I be keeping my energy to myself. I be filling my cup, my just
Yes.
in my own little bubble. And I'm like, you have to be to some degree like giving something as well to get something. Not
Mm-hmm.
all the time, because I love to give, but I'm much more protective of my energy and space. And like it's saying that everybody can just come in type of vibe where it was before, and I would attract people who wanted to drain and like I guess people call them energy vampires. And so I think
Yeah.
because of my dynamics growing up, that's what I realized about myself. It's like, oh, they're here because they just want to vent and get off and have me like give them encouragement or positive words and like dip.
They're
And now
not
I'm
really
depleted.
here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how being the eldest daughter shows up in motherhood.
Mm.
Now, T, I mean, you're obviously more familiar with this than
Yeah.
I am. And
Yeah.
so, at least from on a personal level. And so, when you think about, and you've kind of mentioned this earlier in the
Mm-hmm.
episode of, in this conversation of baby Z
Mm-hmm.
and how you're being intentional around how you are mothering her.
Yeah. Girl, okay, so Dom, I may have a blind spot right now. So if you see something that I'm not seeing, let me know because I'm trying to connect, like, how did being the eldest daughter, how is that connected to motherhood? And a couple things come to mind, but I might be missing
Mhm.
something. I would say the key thing for me is like there were certain things I like literally raised like we raised our siblings, right?
Yeah.
Raised my siblings, and
Hmm.
there's like a big age gap between some of us. I think it's like 8 to like I don't know, 13 years or something like that. Yeah, 8 to like 15 years, I think is the biggest age gap from the siblings I raised in the house. And they often, when I see them now, they're all bigger than me. And they're like, oh, I used to look so big when you were younger because they all, outgrew me or
Hmm.
whatever. And so they would often say, remember when you used to whoop us? And I'm just like, oh my God. And they laugh about it. It's like, and I will say, growing up, we were raised in a household where it was like spare the rod, spoil the child. And so I was
Yeah.
raised getting whoopings. And so I would spank my siblings when they were younger, when they weren't listening. But what they would say in adulthood now is that they're like, you used to always have a conversation with us before and after. And I'm not proud that I used to whoop them because I don't whoop my own child. So I think for me, now knowing what I know, like I had that experience with my siblings because growing up, I always thought like, oh, I would whoop my kids. But having the experience with them and now raising a child, that doesn't resonate with me. I feel like there's other ways
Yeah.
of discipline. And so that's one area I can think of. It's like, okay, I went down this path with my siblings. I'm not proud of it, although they don't categorize it as abuse. I don't like the whooping kids with belts. That's just not my thing.
That's not,
I feel
I
like
don't
there are
agree with it
other
either.
ways.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I think many of us, it was normalized. Like everyone I
Yep.
knew, we was getting beat on, but also getting whoopings with belts. And so that's one thing that comes to mind for me is like being more intentional with discipline and consequences because I witnessed something growing up. I adopted that pattern, raised my siblings, and now I'm like, I'm not going to continue that cycle with my daughter.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of what it is how that's showing up
Hmm.
is in terms of how you're mothering is that because you have done the work and you're
Hmm.
continuing to do the work on yourself, you were parenting differently than how you were parented.
Hmm.
And you're giving baby Z space and freedom to be a child and to
Yes.
have childhood experiences that align with what's developmentally appropriate for her age, right?
Yeah.
Had you not done the work, not started the work on healing yourself or understanding how the eldest daughter things will show up, then you may have found yourself in a situation where you were overcompensating,
Hmm.
where maybe you were repeating those cycles that you saw. So, like having expectations that aren't necessarily age appropriate, giving her roles and responsibilities that aren't necessarily age appropriate,
Yeah.
right? Or, going back to the overcompensating, going overboard with giving her all the things that you didn't
Hmm.
in an effort to make yourself feel good and more so in an effort to replace your childhood, to
Like heal
have your
myself.
childhood through her instead
Yes.
of tapping into your own inner child and having separate
Yeah.
experiences for your own inner child
That
that
is
aren't
really
related
good.
to her.
That's so powerful, Dom. 'Cause I feel like you can be on most like different ends of the spectrum, either overcompensating and doing so much, or I've seen some others too where they're like, "Well, I'm fine. I went through it. She'll be good," and they kind of continue that pattern. So I do feel balanced. I'm sure I'm making mistakes in motherhood, and I'm sure she'll tell me in about 15 years, and I'll be there to be like listening. But I think that it does feel balanced, and I do a good job of like letting her make a mess. Have fun. Like
Yeah.
I'm sick. She wants to come take care of me. And I'm like, thank you so much, baby. But mommy's in charge. Like I'm gonna take care of myself. Or she wants to make me happy, and I try to teach her like, mommy, I'm in charge of my happiness. Like you don't have
Yes,
that's not your
exactly.
responsibility, and like
Hmm.
verbalizing that to her so she doesn't take that on. So yeah, thank you for calling that out.
And so then the next area where things show up for us as eldest daughters is in our career.
Mm, girl.
So, the overachiever, because you've been told you have to set a good example for the younger siblings, right?
Oh gosh.
You have to be a good role model. You're expected to perform. And so
Hmm.
then that leads to people pleasing, which then leads to maybe over performing, right? And then starting to believe that your worth is tied to your productivity. And so then you find yourself in this space of constantly having to do, right? To produce.
Yeah.
And depending on the work setting, are you the person who's taking care of everybody in the office?
Oh girl.
Are you the one who is organizing all of the social events?
Mm.
Are you the one who has to head up all of the committees?
Well, that was a lot. And you know what it made me think about, Dom? I think about I've done like a lot of community management work, and as soon as you said that, it made me think like, oh, okay, this is probably from this is I can see how that, even though I love to do that work, how that came from childhood. There's some things that came from
Mm-hmm.
that, but I appreciate them, and I think it serves me and the community, right? But you're spot on with that, and I think about rest as well, right? Us
Yes.
being overachieving women, ambitious, rest can sometimes feel dangerous, right? When our worth is tied to being useful and I remember
Mm-hmm.
years ago, I went on a sabbatical, and it was a paid sabbatical because I hit 4 years at my corporate tech job, and I remember having plans to, like, travel abroad and all this stuff. But that second day, that first second day where I did not have work to do and I was being paid, I felt wild. I was like so many emotions because I'm like, I'm getting paid. I'm so blessed, one, to have this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting paid. I got this. But I was like, what the fuck do I do with myself? And I was
Yeah.
like, who am I when I'm not working? That was the question I kept asking. Who am I when I'm not working? When I'm not producing? When I'm not providing
Mm-hmm.
value? Because I am a recovering workaholic and I love being productive. And I had to actively learn what to do and how to be when I'm on vacation, when I'm not
Yes.
on the clock. And that shit was very challenging. Can you
Oh, I
relate?
know. Of course,
Can
you know I
you
can.
relate?
Of course.
Tell
You
me about it,
know,
girl.
so years ago, my therapist wanted me to work on having to rest more, right? Because
Yeah.
she saw that I was burned out. But I was like, no, I need to keep going. There are things that have to get done, goals that I'm trying to reach. Like, and there's not enough time in the day to do all the things. I got to. And one of the things, and I've talked about it on here before, one of the things that she was emphasizing for me was the importance of rest
Mm-hmm.
and importance of sleep. And so, you all have you all have heard me talk about sleep and
Mm-hmm.
why it's important. And one of the things that she forced me to, well, let me not say she forced me to, she strongly encouraged me to do, and then I did,
Yeah.
was, and I still practice this, is one minimum 1 day a month
Mm.
as a do nothing day,
Yes.
where it's blocked out in my calendar and I have nothing planned and I go with the flow on that day. And there have been some times where I literally have done nothing. And then there are some times where I've gotten up and I've just done whatever came to mind that day, right?
Yeah.
It may have been that I got up and did 2 hours of working out.
Mm-hmm.
Or I may have called a friend and said, spur of the moment, like, hey, like, let's go grab brunch, right? I will say though, early on, that was hard, super
Okay.
hard to do
Yeah.
because I was like, well, I have all these other things that need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
What? No. And, but what if somebody wants to go do something or somebody calls and no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was a struggle.
Yep.
And like I felt guilty. I was like, oh, I'm bored. What am I like? I don't know what to do, right? Like this doesn't
Yes.
feel right that I'm sitting here
Restless.
reading a book, right? Like, or that
Yeah.
I'm lounging in bed and it's 10 o'clock. Like
Yeah.
now, there are some times where on my do nothing day, where I don't even answer my phone. I'm not looking at the phone at all,
I
which
love
for
that.
me is huge progress.
Mm-hmm.
And to do it without feeling bad about it.
Yes.
Now, mind you, I said this was years ago when I started this practice. So again, it's still
Yeah.
a work in progress,
Yeah.
but I think that it's important work.
It is. It's
And
necessary.
it's necessary. And I also
Yeah.
want to point out that, lady, as you're listening, I don't want you to walk away from this conversation feeling like, oh, the things that we're saying that we're judging or that we're saying it's
Hmm.
bad.
Yeah.
I want to be clear that if it's something that you truly enjoy, keep doing that. But be clear that it is something that you truly enjoy for you.
Hmm.
So, again, use this as an opportunity to stop and reflect on all these things that I'm doing for everyone else. If I were to stop those things today, how would I feel?
There you go. I'm so glad that you brought up guilt as well, because I think that is a natural feeling for many of us to feel when we
Mm-hmm.
are when we set those boundaries, when we're like, oh, you know what, I'm not answering my phone. Or in my case, it was like something like responding to every single message and every single comment, like, or every single email, like just getting back to people so quickly. It's like, let me take a beat. Like, you don't have
Yep.
to do that. And I think that it's so important for us to maybe reframe our relationship with guilt in these instances, because a lot of times guilt can be, it's like the, it's like the receipt of a new boundary, right? And so it's not
Yes.
always the truth or an indicator that you're doing something wrong. And I think a lot of times we associate, oh, if I feel guilty, then it means I have to change my behavior or something bad. But sometimes it's like, wait, like just imagine like you're setting a new boundary and you're getting a printed out receipt where it's like, okay, you might feel a little guilty because it's new, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think this was a good time for us to talk about some coping strategies and the healing practices that we
Yes.
would implement. So, number one is rewriting the role. Rewriting the role. And a journal prompt that can go along with this is, who am I when I'm not the fixer? And so we can practice saying to ourselves, I can't take that on right now, which may be very
Yes.
new and very uncomfortable, but I
Yes.
can't take that on right now. And I think part of rewriting the role for me, Dom, as a, as the eldest sister in my experience, is not letting the outcomes of other people's lives, my siblings especially, be like not feeling responsible, so
Mm-hmm.
responsible for who they are. They're adults now, right? Even when I moved to California from Philly, like, or from the East Coast, it's like I had to let go of the responsibility of where they would end up, how they would be, because I have to focus on my own life. I can
Yep.
only do better for my community and my family if I'm okay and if I'm filling my cup and if I'm doing what I need to do. And so rewriting my role was so essential in my mental health and my life, but also in theirs, and letting them figure things out on their own and figuring out like a new
Yes.
support model, I guess you could say.
Yes. I think that's important. And I also want to note that rewriting the role does not mean that you are no does not have to mean that you are no longer in this person's life, right?
Yes.
That you no longer that you completely stop doing certain things.
Yeah.
Rewriting it means that you're doing it in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you're doing it less frequently, but you're rewriting it in a way that truly feels nourishing for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about it for me, like there, I am not going to always be the family organizer, the planner, the all the
Girl,
things.
you better go ahead.
And, you know, I do recognize that there are times when I have the capacity and I have the necessary skill set
Mm-hmm.
to take something on. Outside of that, if there are other people who are capable of doing it, I'm stepping back and letting
Mm-hmm.
other people do this. And I'm going to insert my opinion occasionally. But I don't have to be the one who is doing all the things, all the organizing, all the planning.
Yes.
And so for me, that's what it meant. It didn't mean that, okay, nope, I'm never complete hands off, never doing it ever again.
Mm-hmm.
It's rewriting the role for me means I'm using discernment,
Mm-hmm.
and I have certain questions that I'm asking myself to determine, is this when I step in
And what you
and
have the
take on this
capacity.
role? And what does this, yeah, what are the
Mm-hmm.
conditions that are necessary for me to do this? Because otherwise, if those conditions aren't met, I'm not doing it.
Period.
And so then that takes us to our second strategy, and that's about boundary building, setting without feeling guilt. And because change can be hard, these boundaries that you're setting, it may be helpful to start small. So, what that could look like is delaying your response instead of immediately jumping in to fix something. Instead of immediately jumping in to problem solve, pull back.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a little bit of time. Because sometimes what you might find is that people continue to come to you because you automatically do it. It's
Yeah.
not that they can't do it. It's, well, if Terri's going to do it, why do I need to do it? Whereas if you
Yeah.
step back, let them handle it or give it some time, you will find that they will handle it
This is true.
without your input.
And with all due respect, we do train people on how to
How to treat us.
engage with us and how to treat us.
Mm-hmm.
So if they know like, yo, Dom is always gonna give me this bread when I need some money, I'm always gonna go to Dom because that's a sure thing for me. That is my experience. But when Dom switches up and she sets a boundary, then I'm like, oh, I may need to look at other options, right? So like we do train people, so that's something to keep in mind.
I like that example because that happened to me in real time. And when I did that, and when that happened, I was like,
When you set a
oh,
boundary,
about around money. That was the example, right?
yes,
Like
yeah,
someone
yeah,
came to me and was like, "Oh, I can I borrow blah blah blah," and I said,
yeah.
"Sure, but I can't give it to you until," and I delayed it.
Oh, and how that worked? Do they still
And
get it?
before that time came for me
Uh-huh.
to get provide the money,
Uh-huh.
they messaged and said, "Oh, don't worry about it anymore. I got it."
Oh, I like that approach too. Yeah, instead of being like,
Right?
oh, let
So
me give it to you right now.
that's the delayed
Okay.
response,
All
right?
right now.
So, and then the another boundary setting example is to stop over explaining and just provide a simple truth.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That's a work in progress for me that and there are
Yeah.
times when I do find myself still having the need to explain.
Yeah.
And then there are other times where I'm very clear on and can easily say, I don't have the capacity for that
Yeah.
and leave it at that.
I will say, Dom, I'm with you. This is definitely an area for improvement. And having baby Z for the past 5 years has been the most beautiful boundary setting guide for me because
Yeah.
I'm a mother. Oh, can I borrow
Mm-hmm.
some money? I'm a mother. I have pull up. You gonna buy clothes? Like it's such an easy way for because it's realistic and I don't feel bad about it. Cause like she's my priority. So that for the mom, sometimes that can be helpful to you. Like, listen, I'm a mother. Okay,
Yes.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
No more explaining. And then speaking of, children, number three is reconnecting with your inner child, which I love to do so much these days. And the ask here is what did younger me need that I never got?
Yeah.
So engage in play, rest, creativity without productivity. And sometimes that looks like us mothering or, yeah, mothering ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like there are times where this may sound wild to people, but there are times where I'm like seeking a certain type of validation or attention, and I will send a text message to myself. Okay. I will send
Yeah.
voice notes to myself. I will write letters to myself from the lens of my younger self and just give myself what I desire, things that my mom did not have the capacity or did not have the wherewithal to provide me with. And so I can send her love and then do that mothering on my own. And it still fills my
Mm-hmm.
cup. And so there are different ways that we can engage our inner child and give ourselves what we didn't have.
Or giving yourself more of what you had that you enjoyed.
Hmm.
So for me, I've talked about it all the time. I love reading. And so for me, I read every night. And so that's a thing that I enjoyed since childhood. Like
Yeah.
escaping into a book, like that was my thing. I would rather read a book than be outside playing. That was my thing,
Yeah.
right? And so for me, that is something that I've carried on from childhood. And then, there's an episode where we talk about certain traditions and things that we enjoyed around holidays and things like that. And for me, that taps into those moments in childhood that felt childlike. And so I think it's about not it's about the both it's about both giving your inner child the things that it didn't get
Hmm.
and Also making time for the things that you did get that you truly enjoyed.
Yes. I love it.
So then, speaking of giving, as eldest daughters, we tend to do more giving than receiving. And so, tip number 4 is to learn to receive. Let someone help you, even if it feels uncomfortable. And take notice of those moments when you might deflect care.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think what that can look like, it's something as small as receiving a compliment
I was just thinking that. Mm-hmm.
that
Yes.
I've been actually practicing that
Yeah.
more recently, of someone giving me a compliment and I'm saying thank you and that's it.
And that's it. I'm like, oh, this old thing, or oh, no, no. Thank
So it's
you.
either, yeah, prior
Yeah.
to that, prior to me implementing this practice, and I don't
Yeah.
always get it right, let me be clear,
Yeah.
but prior to that, it was if someone gave me a compliment, it was, yeah, I either had to find a way to put it down
Yeah.
or to find something about them to compliment.
Yeah.
And what I part of that practice for me now is, even if I do immediately see something that I want to compliment on the person,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to stop myself
Mm.
and to let myself fully receive and be in the compliment that I was just given.
Mm.
And that's small.
But powerful.
Another example that I think about is a few years ago when I had my hysterectomy, and being willing to receive care after I
Mm-hmm.
was released from the hospital. And I remember being at home, and I'm in my home,
Yeah.
and naturally in my own home, I'm host, and having to sit back and let my friends and family that were there step in and do the things without me having to, like, without me doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard. That I
Yeah.
will fully own it. That was hard, but it had to be done.
I remember us talking about that too, Dom, and that makes me think about after I had baby Z and like my midwife and doula feeding me and massaging me and fixing my food, and how sometimes when people do certain things, we're like, I just want to do it because I like the way I do it, you know? Like
Yeah, yeah,
my
uh-huh,
husband at
uh-huh.
the time would make me my bacon, egg, and cheese. And I was like, I just want my bacon crispy. Like, you want to do it yourself. But it's like there's
Mm-hmm.
power in receiving and just letting it be. So I love that we're instilling that and having this conversation. And then number 5, okay, this is the final one.
Cool.
Number
Cool.
5 is nervous system healing. So breath work, stillness, somatic practices, and just reminding ourselves that survival mode isn't your forever state. You may be there right now, but just know that that's not where we want to be forever, and you won't be there forever. It is temporary. And I don't know about you, but I know that for me, meditation, stillness, breath work, that work has been so powerful for my life. And I really
Yeah.
didn't realize that I I feel like my insides were so chaotic for such a long time. Like I had fertility struggles. I had so much going on. And now, like after my divorce, being in this new state of life, I realized like, oh my gosh, my life is so peaceful. My nervous system is so calm. And I'm looking back on years prior and I was living in so much stress. I was
Yeah.
having appetite issues. And no wonder why I couldn't get pregnant. My insides were chaotic because of stress and all the things that I was
Mm-hmm.
managing. And so now I know my new baseline. And I have something to compare it with. And so nervous system healing can be so instrumental for our growth, development, and just overall health.
Yes. I try to meditate. Let me not say try. I meditate almost every morning and have been doing this for a year now. And I recall a point maybe in the second year of us doing the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
where you were talking about meditation. And I would say, for me, meditation, I use it at night when I'm trying to fall asleep because every time I meditate, I fall right to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Right.
I remember that.
And I am at the point now where I meditate in the morning to set my day, set the tone for my day, right? And it's anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. It's a guided meditation and it helps ground me before I start the day. Now, there are some mornings where, and I notice and I'm aware, right? There
Mm-hmm.
are some mornings where I'm waking up too late. Like literally, I gotta hop up and get dressed and get out the door.
Yeah.
And I feel chaotic.
Yes.
I feel a little disorganized because I haven't ground myself before starting the day. And then I end
Mm-hmm.
up having to, and then what I usually end up doing is meditating that night before I go to sleep because I'm like, I need a reset.
Yeah.
Like, let's level set. Let's get
Yeah.
back. Let's get rid of some of this chaos and let's
Yeah.
level set. And so, lady, as you listen to this, as whether you are the eldest daughter or you were listening and heard things that resonate for your experience, these strategies can be helpful for you. So, we're going to run through them one more time. The first one is rewriting your role. If it's not bringing you peace, if it's not for your betterment, you don't need to do it. So, rewrite your role. Number two, boundary setting without guilt. Number three, reconnecting with your inner child. Number four, learn to receive. And number five, healing your nervous system.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, lady. We appreciate you. Also, if you are catching us or on the audio podcast, make sure you go to YouTube. We on YouTube now, okay? So check us out, Cultivating Her Space on YouTube. If you want to put faces to the voices and like prop us up as you cook or clean or, take your bath, whatever it might be. Also, if you want to catch the after show where we talk a little bit about behind the scenes stuff and some exclusive content, you can visit herspacepodcast.com. Click anywhere you see Patreon and you can join our Patreon. And yeah, we'll catch you here next week, same time, same place.